right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are here with Selfless Little Gaming. We are on episode number 8. We got a lot to talk about. Super Bowl has happened. Football is officially over and done with, but there are definitely some big free agents out there that could be hitting the market this off season. We're also going to be covering some NBA breakdown. Before we get into all of that, I am selfless_gaming. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Hover. This is my co-host, Little Jacob. Little Jacob, go ahead, brother.
Hey, what's up, guys? Little Jacob. That's little with a 3 instead of an E. You can also find me on Twitch, TikTok, and Twitter, and Facebook if that's a social media app that you like to utilize. I'm on there as well, and YouTube in case you want to interact or have any comments or questions. Definitely good to be back. A lot of football related topics that'll still go on even though it's the off season, especially with the combine coming up. And then of course we'll start getting into the preseason activities pretty soon. So definitely a lot to discuss in that regard as well as basketball.
All right, so, well, Jacob, I know you're kind of wanting to dip into the free agency market and stuff, so I'll let you kind of lead the way today. And we'll kind of bounce back and forth off each other like we normally do, but go ahead and kick us off, bro.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, with this free agency this year, I think this is probably one of the biggest free agency seasons with the kind of players that are available and that are most likely not going to stay or may not stay on their team. So I'm just going to kind of name off some of the bigger players on this list here. Um, One of those big players is the everyone knows Devontae Adams for Green Bay. Definitely a free agent. With Green Bay's shortcomings over year after year, unfortunately for them, and the way that it ended against the 49ers, you're probably going to look to see him test the market and see what's available for him. I mean, Devontae Adams is the best free agent probably that's come out in a long time. I mean, the guy's 29 and he still has a lot of football left and he still plays great season and season out. So that's a big one. There's Terran Armstead. He's an offensive tackle from New Orleans. With New Orleans kind of trending in a different
Yeah.
direction, and with the coach being gone, uh, Drew Brees is gone. It's more likely that he's probably going to try to go somewhere where he has a better chance of being part of a winning team. Same goes for Chris Godwin. I mean, we all know what he's capable of out there in Tampa Bay. Tom Brady's retired. He might just end up testing the waters for his free agency value as well, which is really high. He's only 26. He's going to be coming back off an injury, but I don't expect him to have that linger for him going into next season. I think he'll be really productive. So that's someone to keep an eye out for, especially if you're going to be playing fantasy football. Uh, Allen Robinson from Chicago, another young receiver, about 29. He's also going to be a free agent. A big one that may most likely return, but you never know how these things turn out. So we'll definitely keep an eye on as the situations develop for free agency. Von Miller just won the Super Bowl, with the Rams. Had a big season with them. I mean, he's definitely a huge contributor to that defense because even if he's not making a play, he's disrupting and doing something to cause problems for that offensive side. So he's definitely a big piece to have out there in the market. Also, Chandler Jones from Arizona. I think that's going to be an interesting one to see if he decides to stay on Arizona with some of the woes that they're having with the team in general. He'd definitely be a great addition and edge rusher for any team that he would go to, for sure. I think also another notable would be Marcus Williams of New Orleans, safety. The kid's only 25. With the way the Saints are going, I don't see him maybe wanting to stick around if he's offered a bigger contract with a better team, somewhere he's going to want to play that it has a good shot at winning the championship. So I would be on the lookout for some of those names. Is there anybody like out of those names that probably sticks out to you, or do you think like maybe someone like Von Miller might consider playing for another team even though they just won the Super Bowl?
So I think, like, first let's start with Devontae Adams. That guy is
Mhm.
literally he's top 5 wide receiver every year, like since he's pretty much been in the league. He's also had a top 3 quarterback though too. For Green Bay's like situation, Von Miller or not Von Miller, but Devontae Adams has really become like more and more expressive about how he should be the top paid wide receiver in the league past couple
Mhm.
years. Um, with Aaron Rodgers and what is like unfolding in that situation, that could open up quite a bit of money to keep Devontae Adams where he's at, but it's also one of those things too. Like, do you want to lock in one guy for a lot of money that's at a skilled position? That
Yeah.
whereas like a quarterback, quarterbacks usually can get the ball out pretty quick. They're usually protected very well, unless you're Joe Burrow. He gets sacked 80 times a season. Um, but usually they will be able to get the ball out quick, be protected, not take as many hits. Whereas the skilled positions, they're going to be taking a lot more hits, a lot more punishment, especially Devontae Adams. That guy's always getting double covered. I think you might see, and he hasn't like shown anything like this in the past, but I feel like
Yeah.
with Green Bay and the way the organization is, they don't pony up a lot of money all the time.
Yeah.
And I could actually see going into next season him being the next like big profile player that does a holdout. Because the
Yeah.
guy is a high value and the guy
Yeah.
wants what he wants. And in my opinion, the guy deserves what he wants. Like he wants to be the highest paid wide receiver. He has literally performed the past 3 seasons. If he's not been the number one wide receiver, he's literally 2 or 3. He's been healthy, he's durable.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the most interesting free agency to follow. Um, Aaron Rodgers pretty much made it known for the past 3-4 seasons he wants out of Green Bay. That's probably going to be the main talk of everything of like where's he going to go, where's he going to end up. Chris Godwin though, that's a really interesting one to me because depending on who comes into Tampa Bay with
Mm-hmm.
Brady's departure, I could see him either staying or going. And I'm kind of interested to see how this Aaron Rodgers thing plays out because if Tampa Bay's smart and they can afford it, they can pony up some of that money, get him in there, maybe do Godwin as the franchise tag, keep him on there for one more year, then restructure his contract the year after. Um, there's also been, it's not necessarily like free agency talks, it's more like contract talks with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
There's been some speculation around like, do they extend his contract or do they try to like maybe go after Carson Wentz and get somebody else in there? So there, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting moves that happen in the offseason. But I think like as far as the most impacting one is definitely Devontae Adams because if he leaves, who else do you have out there in Green Bay? Like you have Aaron Jones, but it
Yeah.
clearly showed in the playoff game they couldn't do anything with their pass game, and Aaron Jones had like 200 and some yards in their playoff game because that's the only person they can get the ball to. Like Aaron Jones is a great back too. Like he's very dynamic, but if he's your leading rusher, leading wide receiver, leading in receptions and everything, it's like clearly you don't have any other weapons besides him and Devontae Adams, and they locked him down. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, definitely with the Packers potentially losing Aaron. I mean, even though we've kind of been saying it for a few years, but it might finally happen. I think that they would be wise to do everything they can to keep Devontae on the team because
Yeah,
not only they're gonna have to go through the trouble of finding the right quarterback, like they just won't have an offense that's really suited for doing well at all, without Aaron or Devontae. So that's gonna be interesting to see for sure how that plays out because somebody was even if it's like a ridiculous payment amount of money, someone's gonna pay him. Someone's gonna every team
oh yeah,
would be happy to have him. So someone's gonna pay him whatever he asks for. That's how high the profile is for him, for sure. And I think the same thing with Chris Godwin. If Chris Godwin tests the waters and goes out there and says, you know what, I want set amount of money for this amount of years, there's going to be a team that's not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that's going to give it to him.
yeah.
Even though I kind of feel like Tom Brady's the kind of guy that will say he's retired and then come to a training camp day one, he just shows up just to like, yeah, what I'm going to play. You didn't know? Just show up. I
Guys,
wouldn't
it
be
was a
shocked if
joke.
he just shows up
It was just a joke,
with the
guys.
stuff ready to go. Like, yeah, we're doing this. Are we going to do this? But no, maybe not. Maybe he's actually retired. So unless that happens, I don't see why Chris Godwin wouldn't try to play somewhere else.
Yeah.
Um,
And like to give people who don't necessarily like follow sports a ton, the free
mhm.
agency market can be a huge thing for a team. And the
Yeah.
prime example of that is I saw this tweet where a guy commented and said, like we all know Mike Brown is not going to go out and spend a ton of money to get a better offensive line. The guy's been doing this since the 90s. It's never going to happen. And somebody came back that was actually like an ESP or like an NFL analyst, and he actually showed over the past 2 seasons that the Bengals and Mike Brown have spent over $200 million to acquire these guys, and it was like Von Bell, like all the defensive guys they got, Kendricks, all these people they brought in. He broke down like all of their contracts, and he was like, and he basically said like they've been doing this for the past 2 years. It's finally starting to show that they've been utilizing the free agency market and they've been spending money. Stop living in the 90s. Like he's telling his fan, like stop living in the 90s because they're doing
Yeah.
it. And you saw what happened this year. Like their defense was a bend don't break type defense. They whatever they needed to get a stop, they made it happen, and they made it to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And nobody ever expected them to even be in the playoffs. So like the free agency market can be a huge swing for a team in the next year, and trades, things like that. Like look at the Rams. The Rams were struggling mid-season. They made some new acquisitions with Odell Beckham Jr., Von Miller, got some more people in, brought in what is his name, Weddle back,
Yeah.
and everything.
Well.
Like they won the Super Bowl. That's the pieces and stuff
Mm-hmm.
they needed to get through the playoffs. They won the Super Bowl. So a lot of times, like people don't really think there's too much in the off season, but the off season is where you make your moves as a team and like rebuild your team for the next season to be better. Not really a lot in the draft. The draft is for like acquiring younger talent and developing that.
Yeah.
Free agency is where it's at for making
Yeah,
moves.
and these are established players. You know
Yeah,
what they can do, their value, and you can have a great. And we'll get to that in a minute as well about the combine. But you can have it drafted what is potentially looks like a great player, and unfortunately they're just not. At least not in the NFL, right? It
yeah.
doesn't always translate. Um, I think out of the two free agents from the Rams, which is Odell Beckham and Von Miller, I think Von Miller would be the least likely to return just because I feel like they don't necessarily need him as much as they would prove to need Odell Beckham more potentially. Because I just think it's more likely Odell would return than Von Miller.
Yeah.
He was looking like he was gonna have a big game. Like he's just making it look too easy out there, and unfortunately he had that injury, and it kind of seemed to slow down the Rams' offense from that point on. So I see them looking being more focused on retaining him than Von Miller. But sometimes Super Bowl teams they try to keep everyone together if they can
Well,
to
and
get another run in.
another thing to that too is they lost Robert Woods in the middle of the season with the torn ACL. And that's when they brought in Odell Beckham Jr. Because we had that conversation of like, okay, did they know about this before it got out to the media that Robert Woods had like
Yeah,
torn his
that's right. Yeah,
ACL?
yeah, I remember
Because
now.
it
That's
was
right.
very weird. All of a sudden, it was just like Odell Beckham Jr. is going to the Rams, and we're like, what? Why the hell would he go to the Rams? And then it was literally the
Hmm.
next day, Robert Woods tore his
He was
ACL. It's
hurt.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, imagine if Robert Woods comes back healthy, they can obtain like retain Odell Beckham Jr. and they got Cooper Cup with their running backs and offensive line.
Yeah.
Woo! It'll be a
Yeah.
scary
That's gonna
team.
be a powerhouse still. I don't doubt it. Um, but those are probably more of the bigger names out there. Another guy, just speaking personally for the team that I follow, that I'm a fan of, the Dallas Cowboys. Randy Gregory's gonna be a free agent. I hope we do retain him. I mean, with the way the playoff game went, I'm not too sure like where that was all about. But the guy's only 29, and when he has stayed out of trouble, which he has this year, and recently he's proven that he can be a pretty a consistent edge rusher. There's also Jadeveon Clowney from Cleveland. He's
Yeah,
also going to be a
he had
free
a
agent.
good year,
So
man.
that's another good player to look at as far as someone to come off the edge for
Yeah,
you.
him and Miles Garrett on the same team was scary this year. Like
Yeah,
Clowney,
for
Clowney
sure.
kind of showed his worth. Like, yeah, I can still do this. So,
Yeah, definitely.
um, before we kind of like move on, what do you think about coaches? Because I know the Rams have lost um their offense coordinator. He's going to be the head coach of the Vikings. But do you think there's any coach out there that for this upcoming season they are 100% on the hot seat? Like they better win, or they're going to be gone type deal.
I would say Man, you know what? I'll just say it like this. I think head coach McCarthy of the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is a hot seat season for him because
Yeah.
it wasn't just we made it to they made it to the playoffs. They won the division, but the way that the game went, the way the season went, with the team just being the most penalized team in the NFL, just displaying no discipline, and then especially when you got a name out there like I don't know, I can't think of it right now from the Saints, the coach that
Sean
retired.
Payton.
Sean Payton, right?
Yeah.
When you got names sitting out there, kind of just in retirement, and your performance, I think McCarthy definitely is in the hot seat this year, to just do more, do better. And to me, one of the most disappointing things is the fact that one of the most basic things a football team has, or that you need from a football coach, is to instill discipline in your football team, and that just was non-existent. It seemed a lot of the time, and in that playoff game. So I think that's definitely a hot seat situation for him. Trying to think maybe of another team that might be on the bubble as
I
far as the
personally think Pete Carroll,
mm,
because like
yeah,
with what they've had, like with what he started with and where he had the Seahawks, past few seasons, man, they have really just fallen short. It kind of
yeah,
seems like his team is always in a disarray, and honestly, man, that's another player right there too, Russell Wilson, bro. There's been some or like speculation and talks about them possibly trading him to a different team to acquire a lot more assets for the Seahawks organization, because their
yeah.
defense has been terrible for the past 3. They used to
I
go by
also
like
think,
the Legion of Boom, man, and now they're the Legion of Bums. You know, like
yeah. You know what? Another coach that I just realized that would I would consider the hot seat for the Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, not only
yeah,
with how terrible the team played down the stretch, how terrible that they played in the playoffs, this whole debacle with Kyler Murray and the coach or the coaching staff, or the coach coming out and saying and making comments about his character traits or personality or whatever or what have you. I think Stephen A. Smith was saying something about how, like, so what? Like, so what if he's not the kind of person that you thought he was, or this doesn't demonstrate himself in a certain way that you like? If he's not breaking the law, he's not breaking any rules, he's not hurting anybody, and he
yeah,
can ball, what does it matter?
that's a good
Because it
point.
kind of just seems like Kingsbury is kind of instigating something for no reason, and that's not something that you want for your locker room, for you to be questioning the character of your quarterback. If it's coming, like I think Stephen A was saying, if it's coming from players, if players are saying, "Hey, Kyler Murray is acting a certain way, we don't like it," or there's a problem, that's one thing. But for him to come out and say something like that, right, and question his maturity,
Yeah,
right, question his maturity, it just doesn't seem like something that you would want your head coach to do, especially like he was saying, if he's not breaking rules, he's showing up to practice, he's shown that he can perform. Why are you commenting and trying to question his maturity? It just seems like a bad vibe to do that for your quarterback or any of your players, as
yeah,
a coach. So I think he's definitely on the hot seat too. If things keep kind of spiraling out of control, the drama wise and everything, and especially if they're not playing good come the beginning of next season, because they've had this past season where they started off great. They were
yeah.
undefeated for the longest time. He's definitely going to be on the bubble, because right now it's not looking good with the commotion he stirred up and how they ended the football season. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, transitioning or moving on.
Yes, the top draft prospects of the combine for 2022. Now, keep in mind, everyone, because this is just like happening now, these names and things and roles will get changed and swapped around, and we'll keep everyone updated on how that goes, depending on how people perform and in the combine. So, for those of you who don't know, this is a chance for all the young men from college football who are declaring for the draft to showcase their physical skills, their prowess at the position, just doing more of the basic and display of their positions, right? So that's how they're graded on potentially being a football player, or how good the football player is at their position. So it's a very big deal for them, and for the NFL. So some of those names include, there's Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, defensive end. The guy's a monster.
He's good, man.
Uh, you also have Kayvon. I think it's pronounced, is it Tibidea from Oregon? I might have said that wrong. He's also a
Um,
defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go with that. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but I don't know how to pronounce it
Yeah,
either,
it
so
might
we'll
not
just go
how
with
you
that.
pronounce it.
Okay,
There's
I want to
Kyle.
say something about that guy. I want to get back to him.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Finish off your list, but I
Oh
want to
no,
get back to
yeah.
him.
So there's also Kyle Hamilton, safety from Notre Dame. That guy is, man, he is a solid safety.
He's
That guy
good,
will go
bro.
out there and knock someone's lights out.
Yeah.
And also he can get you some interceptions. So he's a big time playmaker. Definitely excited to see what he does and where he goes. And there's some offensive tackles that we have on here. Even Neal from Alabama and Ikem Okowanu from North Carolina State. So some pretty big time players and some pretty amazing athletes are on this list. So yeah, you said you wanted to say something right about the defensive end from Oregon.
Yeah. So here's my thing with that guy. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't see him being a true defensive end. I see him fitting into more of like a 3-4 scheme. And the
Okay.
reason I say that is because there was some teams like Stanford, for example. Stanford always gives Oregon trouble. Oregon is like got the taller, lankier, faster guys that are not like bigger built and everything, like hold down the like foundation up front on defense. They got
Yeah.
those long, lanky, athletic guys. So teams that like to throw the ball around and everything, they can like their defense disrupts them a lot with that. But when you get teams that like to just smash the ball down your throat, they struggle with because they got to stand there and hold their ground. That is an area, in my opinion, from what I saw this year, he's got to work on. Because when he
Hmm.
could, like when it was down in distance and he could widen out and he could come off the edge, he's a very dangerous player. He is quick off the ball. He's got good hands to knock down like the lineman's hands, get around him. He's got the ability to generate force to like push the lineman like back into the pocket and the quarterback, disrupt his rhythm. But when it comes to a point of like run protection or like even stopping the run, the guy
Yeah.
struggles bad. And I kind of see him being more of like a Von Miller type esque player where it's like you put
Hmm.
him in a 3-4, you move him around a little bit, you let him come off the edge. He doesn't have to be right up there on the line to engage with linemen and blocks. Like, I think that'd be a more suitable spot for him. But also, too, being like in college, you know, their Oregon's program is amazing. Like, they have some of the
Yeah.
best athletes in the country that go out there. In the NFL, they're gonna be like, all right, bro, like you did great in college, but like you're getting 30 pounds put on you in this off season, and we're gonna like just jack you out because they're the cream of the crop when it comes to like strength training, performance, all that stuff. So, um,
Yeah, and I was actually going to get to that. That when it comes to the NFL Combine, like they really put players under a microscope. It's way different from like how you're evaluated from college because they have tape on you, they have film, and of course you're going to do the drills and the things required to see what you're good at. But what they're really going to want to look at and nail down is exactly what you said. They're going to see how he works under when it comes to like stopping the run game when it's doing those kind of things. They're going to want to know how he's improved or what he's doing to improve on that.
yeah,
Because they do look at your strengths and weaknesses, and your draft value and all that is based on what's evaluated and from your previous gameplay during the college season. So that's going to be something that they're going to be looking at how he's working to improve that, where he's improving, and because I mean, definitely in the NFL, you're going to have teams that are just running it down your throat with no halt. It's not going to stop. And if you want to be that guy, you have to be able to do it all. I mean, that sounds crazy, the expectation, but those are the expectations. You have to be able to do it all, especially when you're a big name like that.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. Is there any other players that I didn't mention? Because I know there's several other ones, and this might change, like I said, depending on performance. Is there any other players you can think of that in your mind come up to you as a top draft prospect coming up into the new NFL draft this year?
I'm very disappointed, bro. I'm losing two amazing studs off the Ohio State Buckeyes, and that
Yeah.
is Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson, bro, he's ridiculous, man. Like I'm just gonna touch on these guys like super quick. He is
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. When he first kind of made his mark on the scene
Hmm.
was the first year we played Clemson in the playoffs. He had a great season, but then like as soon as the game started, I think it's like second or third play. Justin Fields threw a 40-yard bomb down the field to him, and the dude literally just yeeted over somebody, like jumped clearly over the Clemson defender, grabbed the ball, got 1 foot in bounds, and secured the catch. And it was just like, holy crap! Like this guy's been balling out all year, but I've never seen that. And then it was like he just kept escalating and performing higher and higher and higher each year. I could see him going before Chris Olave.
Mm,
Chris Olave has the most touchdown receptions for the Ohio State Buckeyes
yeah.
in his career, or like in a career. But the reason I put Garrett Wilson over Chris Olave is because Garrett Wilson is much more utilized all across the field, whereas Chris Olave is very good deep threat in like that long medium range across the middle of the field. So to kind of put like a better comparison, like Garrett Wilson reminds me a lot of Chris Godwin
Yeah.
and his utilization across the field.
His body control.
Yeah, whereas Chris Olave reminds me a lot of Deshaun Jackson.
Mm,
Like the dude can get the ball, like you can throw a quick screen out to him, he can make some people miss, take off, get you 20, 30 yards like that. Or he can do some low route stuff, and then all of a sudden, boom, take off, 80-yard bomb in the air, dude's gone. Like he has that kind of ability, but it's more like his durability and stuff. In college, I never saw him go across the middle of the field a ton. You know?
yeah. And that's something that you're gonna have to do at the next level for sure.
Yes, yeah. So depending on what team like they go to, could actually like kind of impact their overall success. There was kind of a projection that Garrett Wilson might fall to the Bears, and
Mm.
him and Justin Field being teamed up would be pretty nasty, buddy.
Yeah, and Garrett Wilson, I mean, he's just a really dynamic player. I mean, like I mentioned, he has the body control, he has the ball skills. He's a complete receiver in my mind, so that I definitely can see him. I mean, even if he drops, that would be a mistake, I think, on whoever had a chance to get him apart because he really is a total package, and the dude's just explosive. We've seen exactly what he can do, and what he's willing to do to catch the football. So, definitely a good one. There is a prospect that I was looking at. Based on the Pittsburgh situation. And this guy's actually played for Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett. They might have a shot at grabbing him,
Yeah.
depending on where he falls. He's pretty good, in my opinion. He's good arm strength. It can get better, but that'll come with time. He can build his arm strength. That's not a problem. What I do like about him is that he seems to go really quick through his progressions. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's really good at going through his possessions, and usually he gets the ball out quick and with accuracy. I think he's a little bit older, but man, I think out of all the quarterbacks that you can look right now to declare in the draft, I mean, he's probably the most pro ready. He's very efficient at what he does, and the other intangible skills that he needs to work on, that'll happen with experience and time. So I think that's an interesting draft pick to look at coming up.
He reminds me a lot of big.
Yeah, and that's why another reason why I think that they might want to really consider going after him because they do need a quarterback. They're really going to need a quarterback. I know they got Rudolph and stuff, but he's not really the guy for them. I think Kenny Pickett would probably be the best option to go with at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, man. We'll see how it goes, guys. We're definitely going to keep you updated. All these things will change as things and situations develop, whether it's free agency or the combine and checking out these young guys and what they're able to do. So it's going to be fun to watch. I usually like to watch some of the combine every now and then because it's pretty cool to see the athletes able to just do it, see who's the fastest, who's the strongest, guys that can jump the highest. Because you're like, dang, man, there's some really crazy athletes out there. And even if like they don't necessarily get drafted or even make an NFL team, some of those dudes are freaks, man. Like,
Well,
it's
and
crazy.
there's always somebody every year that comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, holy hell, where did this guy come from? Like, and then it becomes like this is their moment to show their potential. Okay, and you've had some guys in the past. I can never remember this tight end's name. He played at Maryland, but the guy was a freak, man. He was an absolute freak, and he was sitting there, and he ran. Yeah, I think he was like 6'6", like 250 or something. Ran like a 4.3 40.
That's insane.
As the tight end, like fastest tight end 40 there is. And then they showed him like because I was just like, dude, who is this guy? Like, where's he coming
Yeah.
from? And they said Maryland, and I started going through and looking at highlights. And dude, you literally see him like catching the ball and DB's coming up, and he's just like yeeting them like one handed on the ground.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he was just like this phenomenon. And I can't not remember his name. Um, but dude, for like 3 or 4 years in the league, he tore it up. And it was one of those things like I never heard of him in college until he went to the combine. And he actually had a really good college career. It was just back when Maryland was part of, I think, the Big East or something.
Hmm.
And there was like all those weird teams that were kind of like thrown together in there before they broke off. But yeah, he actually had like a really good career. I cannot his name.
You remember what team he played for?
I want to say he used to play for like the Redskins possibly, but I can't remember.
Mm.
He was a
Uh,
freak though, man. Like he was an absolute freak.
Yeah, you get to find out how scary some of those athletes really are because it's like sometimes you just get those special guys who are just I mean they're unique because guys that are that size shouldn't move that fast or be able to do what they do. Look at Myles Garrett. I mean the dude's combine was crazy
Yeah.
because he is crazy. Like you're not supposed to be able to do what he's doing at his height and all, but no, but that's why we do those. That's why we have that event. And not to stay on topic too long, but someone was talking about that maybe is it outdated and they should take away that process, but I said no, absolutely not, because it's a good evaluation of a player and the best that you're going to get. I don't think they should take it away. However, what I would like to see is maybe if they do some kind of evaluation where guys are wearing pads and maybe doing some mild kind of contact, because you do want to be able to see how guys perform
Yeah.
when they have the gear on. Because if anyone that's listening has ever played football at any level, it doesn't matter. You'll know that it's one thing to run plays and do things when you're free, like with your just t-shirt and shorts on. It's completely different when you put on those pads.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of feeling, game, etc. Like that's why they call it game ready. Because you're throwing the pads on and it's going down. So it'd be interesting to incorporate a little something like that. But I know because of injury and no one's trying to get hurt, they probably wouldn't. But no, definitely it's an exciting process for sure.
Um, I hope they don't change it just real quick. Like I hope they don't change it because, like you said,
Hmm.
it's an exciting opportunity for these kids and it's a platform for these kids to
Yeah.
showcase everything, And if you take that away, then I don't know. Like it's kind of
I
one of
mean,
those things.
you can already have you can have a great combine, you can outperform everyone, be the fastest, all that stuff, and you could still not be a good player. So
Yeah.
to take that away, the fact that they have busts now, you can only imagine the kind of busts that would end up being on teams because we don't even know, what's what, or at least enough of them to determine their value as a football player.
Um, what's next? We going to NBA?
Yeah, did you happen to watch any of the All-Star game?
I did not actually, bro. I
Okay.
think that was the weekend that we were babysitting, and I'm just gonna
Oh,
say
okay,
this,
yeah,
chat.
that's right.
I've had my reassurance of not having kids after babysitting my kids' friends, or my friends' kids for the weekend. Yeah, like definitely not having kids ever. So yeah,
Oh
no, they weren't
man.
that bad. It's just a lot of energy, man. You
Oh
gotta
yeah,
stay on top of
absolutely.
them.
Especially when they're smaller, you got to follow them around and make sure they're not getting into trouble or hurting
Oh yeah,
themselves.
and the one was 2, and she's actually very smart. Like I took the 5 month old, I was holding her here just real quick, and I was like holding her here and stuff. And if you tried to lay her down, she started crying and everything. So she just wanted to be held upright. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting there holding her and everything, and I left my drink on the countertop. And their 2 year old literally walked over and like grabbed my drink. She brought it over to me when I was sitting in the chair, pulled out a coaster, set it on the little like table thing, put my drink on
Nice.
the coaster, and was like, welcome. Or she said, well, welcome. Like, cause she still struggles with the words and stuff. And I was just like, oh no, shit. All right.
Yeah, well,
like you're
thank
actually
you.
pretty smart. Like my own wife doesn't do this for me. Like how kind of you.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was just, yeah, it was fun, but it's a lot of energy and stuff. So like when I went home for the night, dude, I crashed. I crashed hard.
Got you.
So
Very understandable. Well, the All-Star game, it did end pretty close and it was pretty interesting. So the All-Star game was 163 to 160. As always, there's a high scoring game. It's not really a lot of defense played. Team LeBron won. Man, this is a nuts part. I
LeBron!
mean, I know it's the All-Star game and guys don't really play defense like that, but the fact that Curry made 16 three-pointers is just dumb. Like
Dude's incredible, man.
it's just dumb how well like he can just shoot a three. It's like a video game. You're just going in there and just popping them up and they're just going in every time. So that's one thing he did, which was pretty crazy. Um, LeBron did make the game winner, but of course Curry's performance got him the MVP, for sure of that game. It was pretty cool. Um,
Um, Steph Curry is ridiculous, dude. Like some of the
yeah,
stuff he does and some of the stuff he just throws up, like it's like what you do out there on the playground. Like you're just come down half court,
he's messing around.
just
Yeah,
yeet the ball up in the air and it goes in, and you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Like, come on, dude. Like what?
there's
He's
like
insane.
actually a clip of Curry like catching a pass in practice or like warm ups, and he's no looking a three from the corner. It's just like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, all right, we get it.
There's some clips where he literally has like just shot the ball and then he just turns around, walks off down court, and he's like,
Yeah, it's just
yeah,
a
he just knows
3 point
that he knows
guy.
it's in, you know.
But yeah, that was a pretty interesting game, and it was pretty fun to see all the guys out there having fun, and it was really good. Uh, I actually got a chance to watch the players drafted. Harden got drafted last. It was kind of just like, well, that's all that's left, so I'll take them.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know that he's really gelling well for that team that he's on. I mean, he's had some off games and he's had some good games, but I don't know, man. I really don't think that 76ers are trending in the direction that they wanted to after that trade. And like I've kind of predicted, Ben Simmons is looking like he's a better fit uh, for Brooklyn than Harden for the 76ers.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I think he's gonna be a much more like utilized player for the Nets, like with than like Harden going to the Sixers, because I felt like Ben Simmons was always in a position where like he had to do more of a role than what he was actually like geared to do.
yeah,
In college, it's different because like when he was in college, he was the man. He took over games. He did whatever he wanted. But not everybody is like a 6'7", 6'8" point guard built like a power forward that can just do whatever they want. You know, like
yeah.
you go into the league and it's like the average height of an NBA player in the league is like 6'6". So it's like, okay, yeah, like you're not the biggest, baddest dude out there on the floor anymore.
hmm
Um, yeah, I kind of saw like the Brooklyn Nets, and we both agree like the Nets got a better deal of a trade for that than what the 76ers did.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
what do you think about the Lakers right now?
Man, dude, they were talking about it this morning. I was at the gym and they were talking about ESPN, so I was kind of just taking a look while I was taking the rest. Man, right now they're in a position where somebody has to start getting held accountable for the turmoil and the terrible direction that this team is going.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just no excuse. And I think personally it starts from the top with management and that trickles on down to the coaching staff and the people that make decisions, because the way you have to look at it is you built up this roster and you started off the season what looked like to be a promising basketball team. You expect to go really far, really high in the West. I mean, look at where you came from before. I mean, you even got pretty far in the playoffs. This is not looking like a playoff team at all whatsoever. They've underperformed even with the big names they have. Then here comes the trade deadline. Prior to the trade deadline, they don't make any kind of significant or impactful moves to improve the basketball team, even with the kind of names that they have on that team that could get them some potentially really good trades, even like a Russell Westbrook, who they do not need to be successful and be in the postseason and win games. So that combined with just like AD always getting hurt, kind of just seems like LeBron is feeling like, well, it is what it is.
yeah,
It kind of doesn't seem like he's into it. And they even asked him, would you ever return to Cleveland? He even said something along the lines of, that the book isn't closed on that, meaning he would consider going back to Cleveland. It's just a huge mess, man. And it's probably one of the reasons why Magic Johnson left the organization as being part of because he didn't want to deal with the tomfoolery that they're having going around. It just kind of seems like either somebody there in the front office just doesn't know what they're doing or they don't care. It's
yeah.
pretty disappointing. I mean, I'm a Spurs fan. Obviously, in San Antonio, I'm a huge Spurs fan. hate the Lakers, never want them to beat us. But I have to look at it when I look at it from a pure like just basketball fan perspective and what's going on with that team and the kind of players they have. It just seems like it's a whole debacle from the beginning. It's really crazy on how bad they're playing. Taking a look here to see just some of the general numbers for them. Let's can look at the standings here for the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers are ninth seed, but and yes, they still have a shot to get into the playoffs or into the play-in tournament. But again, with the roster they have, this is just not acceptable. They're 27-31. They haven't even won half their games. You know what I mean? They're 21 games behind the leader, which is of course the Suns. They're never going to catch them. Of course, they're 3-7 in their last 10.
So that's what I'm gonna say. Okay? LeBron James. I'm just gonna say this whole little narrative thing of people say like the Lakers are done this year. 100% a trap. All right, they're not done. Okay, LeBron James has. I don't know that he's missed the playoffs like ever since maybe his first couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's ever like really. Actually, some of the teams that he has missed the playoffs on with was when he was hurt and he sat out the rest of the year. Okay, so like if LeBron James is healthy and he's playing, they're gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Thing I'm gonna say, and this is the trend I've noticed. Okay, I'm going back up here. This is like let's say midway. I'm just gonna start January 9th. All right.
Mm-hmm.
These names I read off are pretty much the leading statistical player for the Lakers. All right. James 35-9-7. James 34 12-6. James 25-9. Monk 6. James 25. Westbrook 8. James 7. James 30. James 12. Horton Tucker 7. James 29. Westbrook 11. Westbrook 7. James 33. James 11. Westbrook 9. James 33. Davis 31, Westbrook 35, Monk 33, Davis 30, Davis 30, James.
Yeah.
Like the guy is 35 years old
And still carrying teams
on
his shoulders.
How old is he? 30. No, he's 37 years old. And he's still literally leading the team in pretty much every statistical category. When you have somebody who has won a scoring title in Russell Westbrook, somebody who was like defensive player, I think, of the year in Anthony Davis and is a top 10 scorer in the league, and you have Malik Monk who can shoot lights out when he wants to, it seems like to me what is going on is, especially these past couple of games, when Davis was leading scorer, they won one, they lost one. When James is leading scorer, they are pretty much like win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. When Westbrook has been their leading scorer, they've been a loss, been a loss, been a loss.
But he had a lot of turnovers in those games.
Yeah, and so like the thing is I think, and this is just prediction. I think throughout the month of, I'm gonna say the next 2 weeks. So they play LA tomorrow. They play the LA Clippers. March 9th is a Wednesday. They play the Houston Rockets. I am going to say 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go to Toronto, March 14th. Toronto. Okay. Out of those next 10 games, I'm going to say they're going to win 7 out of those 10 games. But you're going to see LeBron just be like, shut up. Like, get on my back. Freaking go. This is what we're doing. And if that doesn't happen in those 10 games, then they're not making the playoffs, and those guys are gone.
Yeah, definitely.
LeBron runs the league. Like, he runs the league. I don't care what anybody says. He runs the league. So, like, what he wants, he gets.
Yeah, I absolutely hope so because they've been abysmal on the road. They've hardly won any road games. They're like 9-18.
Yeah,
they've been getting their butts kicked on the road. So
it's pretty sad.
Yeah, something needs to change in that team because the fact that you mentioned, just some of the accolades some of those players have, including LeBron, and to be 27-31 I mean, that's inexcusable. You're not a team that's rebuilding. You're not a team that's got like, well, besides Anthony Davis, I'm not just trying to take a shot at him, but besides Anthony Davis and maybe a few others, you're not riddled with injuries like that you can't be more consistent on a night to night basis out there,
Yeah.
right? So I know that we probably don't have a lot of time to go into it, but that's why when they were kind of just talking about LeBron versus Michael Jordan's legacy, I mean, I'm just going to go out and just say it that there's not a comparison at all. I think anyone who was able to watch even a part of Jordan's career and the champions he made, and even if you just watch the documentary, that's all you know about Jordan, you will know that Jordan's path to the 6 championships he has was much harder than what currently LeBron has having to face throughout his career. Not to say or take away from any of the athletes that he's played against and the teams that he's beaten or lost, but it was just a different time in basketball. Different kinds of players are out there. I don't see a comparison at all, especially when one guy came out and finished with 6 championship rings and got another guy doesn't have even half.
Yeah.
That's just me on that topic that people were talking about this week.
I'll say this about the whole GOAT thing. Okay. If you really break it down
Mhm.
and you go back to when Jordan played, Jordan did not make the playoffs when it was just him, or if he did make the playoffs, he got knocked out in the first round because he had nobody around him.
Mm-hmm.
He literally had the same situation as LeBron. The only difference is LeBron actually took the worst NBA roster probably that there ever was in the league of the Cleveland Cavaliers to go face the not the Saints, but the San Antonio Spurs, and they got
Mm-hmm.
steamrolled.
Yeah.
It's a 4-0. They got steamrolled
Yeah, it
by
was a
him,
sweep.
and he did that with nobody, man. And as soon as like Pippen, Rodman, Grant, all those guys started coming around, Michael, he had allies with him. He had guys that could ball with him, who could like man up, get after people. And then
Yep.
you saw what happened. Like they were a unit, they were a team, they were an actual team that came together. Um, LeBron is one of those players, and I think this is why people like argue the GOAT thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Michael was on the Bulls when he didn't have Scotty, Rodman, all those guys, and he couldn't get it done. When those guys came through, then you saw Michael for Michael, and it's like, holy crap, this guy is by far the best player in the league. He now has some support. They won 6 titles.
Yeah.
You can put LeBron James on any team, they are automatically a playoff contending team. And he's done that his whole entire career. Like he did it with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He lost the Eastern Conference Finals several times to the Boston Celtics when they had the big 3, and even like it was like freaking Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and then Perkins when he was there. Perkins was a monster. He was a pain in the butt in the paint for him and stuff. But like he lost to those guys so many times, and he finally got past him one year and beat him. And it took him dropping like 45 points in the second half or something stupid to like
Mm-hmm.
get past them. But that's why he left Cleveland, because he's like, dude, I don't want my career to be a thing of I did all this stuff, I have all these accolades, but I never got to the championship because
Yeah.
I couldn't get it done. That's why he went and he joined Wade and Bosch in Miami. Went back, boom. Then he went back to Cleveland when Kyrie was there, and he had Kyrie. And look what he did. Cleveland was still terrible. They were still one of the worst teams in the league, except
Absolutely.
with Kyrie Irving on the team. He went back there, boom, competing in the championships. And then
Yeah.
you had Kevin Love and Kyrie both get hurt that year, and LeBron still took it to Game 6 against the freaking Golden State Warriors. I know everybody says Michael Jordan's got all the titles and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people forget, though, how often Michael Jordan fell short without those guys there. If
That's
you want
true.
to compare like player to player, like who do you want on the court when it's games on the line, I'm taking Michael Jordan 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100%. It's the same thing with Tom Brady. We said it during football season. you can talk about Aaron Rodgers and all the stats and accolades that guy has, but when it comes down to winning the game and going and getting the Super Bowl, Tom Brady's on the field. That's the guy I want.
Yeah.
You know? But
And I think one of my friends from work, Lewis, said it best. You can have your regular season MVP.
yeah,
You can have him. You can have him every year. I don't care, because the only MVP that's important to me is the MVP of the championship game,
yep,
because that is the one. That's you know what I mean. Like, that's the cream of the crop, because that you won the big thing.
yep.
And I think we've seen it plenty of times where a player is MVP, never becomes champion ever. It doesn't happen.
And like a good example too of like people kind of thinking like, oh, they are a superstar, then go off and do their own thing. You know, look
Mhm.
at what the Thunder did when they had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden there.
Yeah.
They were awesome. And
Yep.
then they all broke off. Look what happened to them.
Yeah.
And then Kyrie Irving teamed up with LeBron. They go to the finals like multiple years in a row. They win one finally for Cleveland. Kyrie's like, I'm a big dog, man. I can eat at the adult table, you know? And he
Yeah.
tried to break off and go over to the Boston Celtics. They were better off without him. They
Yep.
started playing better without him. And it's like, yeah, man, like you're talented. You're definitely one of the top talents in the NBA, but like, that don't make you the guy, you know?
Yep.
There's very
Definitely.
few people that are the guy in the NBA. So yeah, I always like those debates, like to hear people's sides of them and stuff. But it's just like I feel like there's a lot of people out there that grew up watching Jordan, like you said, and his path
Mhm.
to the finals was way harder than it was. Like when they went up for a layup, those guys literally got clotheslined, and it was
Yeah,
just
like
a normal
you were
foul.
getting
Yeah,
clobbered.
and it was just a normal foul. Like get up, go to the free throw line, shoot your
Yeah,
shots.
and even
Now
some of
you
those
get
guys.
bumped, you're getting tossed from a game. You
Yeah,
know,
and like
like
some of those guys even said, like in the documentary, like, yeah, sometimes the coach was like, hey, go show him go give him a message,
yeah,
go
go
show him
show him
who's
who's
boss,
boss. Go
and
set the
go next
tone.
time he goes up for a dunk or a layup, get that foul
Yep.
and knock him. But they don't play like that anymore, so it's definitely a much more different physical game,
Yeah.
for sure.
And the guys
Um,
that like what was considered like a cheap shot back in the day was when someone went up and instead of them going up with you, they literally just went under your legs. Like they literally just
yeah,
undercut you. And it wasn't a hey man, what the heck? That was benches clear and everybody's fighting type
everybody's
deal
fighting,
and
yeah, for
stuff.
sure.
And there was still no technical fouls called.
No, it was just all right. Break it up, break it up. That was before. That was definitely a different time in sports in general, I think.
Yeah.
Um, Real quick, just to go through the power rankings. For the NBA, we got Suns #1, the Grizzlies at #2, the Heat at #3, Celtics #4, and the Nuggets at #5. Of course, this will change as time goes. You're like, man, where are the Warriors? But right now, that is a top five.
Yeah.
I think what's going to be interesting to see, and hopefully this doesn't dip too much for them. The Suns are #1 right now, but Chris Paul is actually out for about almost 2 months because he fractured his right thumb. I
Hmm.
know it's just a
I didn't
finger,
know that.
guys, but it's basketball, and those are very crucial. And it's your
Yeah.
thumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's going to be out for almost 2 months. He's probably not going to come back till playoff time. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Suns as far as seeding goes and the power rankings, because I mean they're #1 in the West, #1 in power rankings. They just lost a big piece of their offense there with Chris Paul out. I'm sure he'll be there on the sideline to do all the coaching and side stuff, but yeah, that's
That
going to be interesting to watch how that
the
develops.
East is a very tight race right now too. Like
Yeah.
Miami is 1, Chicago's 2, Philly's 3, Cleveland is actually 4th in the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee is 5th, Boston is 6th. But from first place, like Miami and Chicago are tied for first. First to sixth place game is literally a difference of 4 games. Like it's that close from one
Yeah.
through six. So that's going to be a definitely like it's the East has always been a tighter division though too. It's always been a closer division.
Yeah, and my heart's a little sad because we lost DeMar DeRozan for the Spurs, and man, he's over there with the Bulls, and they're just playing out phenomenal.
Yep.
He's just playing his heart out, and I've always been a fan of him, even when he was in Toronto. So I'm happy for him. The Bulls are sitting in #2 seed. It's gonna be interesting to see. I think, me personally, I would love to see the Bulls go back to an NBA Finals
I would
without
too.
Jordan.
They're right
That
now
would be great.
they're 23-8 at home and they're on a 5 game winning streak right now.
Yeah,
They're
they're
killing
they're
it, man.
yeah, they really are. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. See if Milwaukee makes a come up. They're not too far behind. So it's going to be interesting. We'll definitely keep you updated over the next few weeks on how it develops, and also what we'll talk about next time, because it'll be March Madness, college basketball. This is when it gets really good. We already got coaches slapping other coaches.
Yeah, bro.
Trouble, so the drama's already begun, and the tournament hasn't yet.
Hey,
But
that right there, the whole Jawan Howard thing, that
yeah,
is the pure definition of I'm an old school basketball player brought up in old school times, bro. And you cross that line and we're throwing hands, and that's what happened.
yeah,
That
that's
guy
what
crossed the
happened.
line and he said, "All right, you don't know me, man." And they went at it. You know what? I know he got suspended for 5 games. Good for you though, Jawan
Um,
Howard. Good for you, bro. Stand up for your guys. Stand up for your team. I applaud you, even though you're a Michigan guy.
Are you gonna be, just real quick by chance? Are you gonna be doing a March
Oh
Madness
yeah,
bracket?
yeah,
All
100.
right, cool.
percent
We'll definitely talk about that. About setting it up. We can even probably just do like a podcast on the bracket, and I'm sure my friend Lewis wouldn't mind maybe joining us and
Bro,
talking
that's a
about
great
March
idea.
Madness
Let's do
bracket.
that.
So
Let's pull up the bracket, and I'll try to figure out how to like work it into the screen here, so that way
yeah, we
people
can
can
do
see
that.
like what we're doing and stuff. I think I might have to do like another
Yeah,
window
and I
capture or
can
something.
yeah, we can set up a time, and that way I can also probably get my friend Lewis in here like last time, and that way we can probably the three of us kind of just look at the bracket and see
Yeah,
how to fill it up, and then give it, listeners a chance to just kind of hear it out or see how the process works. And it's fun. Some people do it for fun, some people like to do it for cash. You'll go places and see venues that'll say, "Hey, come fill out a bracket, and this is the prize." And so
yeah.
it's a lot of fun because it's just a big basketball tournament every year, college players.
I'm thinking about doing one in the Discord too, if anybody's interested in it. I don't know.
All
There's a
right,
lot of sports people in the Discord, but just whatever, like throw it out there, see what happens. So
definitely. Just let me know.
yeah. But that is it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Me and little Jacob, we definitely appreciate you all tuning in, listening to us. If you guys are ever free and you are on twitch.tv, be sure to check out myself, selfless_gaming. It would be twitch.tv/selfless_gaming. You can also find little Jacob there as well, twitch.tv/little with an E, Jacob. I also have my Twitter, my Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, like Hover. I'm trying to be all over the world, baby. Y'all can find me anywhere. All right. Well, Jacob, go ahead and close us out, man.
Yes, everyone. Little Jacob, little with the three instead of an E. Just let me know if there's any comments or concerns you have. Let us know what your thoughts are, whether it's combine, draft, basketball, March Madness. Feel free to reach out on TikTok, Twitter, definitely Twitch. I try to go live as much as possible. I enjoy interacting with viewers. And even if you just want to leave a comment, subtly, whatever, Facebook, I have a page as well. Feel free to reach out. We definitely like interacting with y'all and appreciate y'all listening. So till next time, definitely have a safe week. Be careful. Tell everyone you love them, even if it's not someone that you normally tell them. Just tell them. We have enough things going on in the world without
Yeah,
not wanting to share that around. So definitely
absolutely.
take care, everybody, and be safe as always.
We love you guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Later.